as promised before, I have the bit from the last one that I didn't do. I have a confession to make, and this may be very controversial. I have an opinion about AI.
Okay.
Now, I think a lot of us are in the same position where we don't like AI in terms of uh, creative endeavors because it generally takes work away from creative people, and also the nature of the way they tend to be built. Generative AI used for creative purposes is essentially it's an amalgamation of stuff that's already out there that they learn from and really just sort of steal. And so this is bad, and I am not anti AI full stop. I still very strongly am like, it's not AI, it's not artificial intelligence, but whatever, we're calling it that. That's fine. I'm not in general opposed to it on principle, but in generative ones specifically for creative endeavors, I tend to be opposed. And just in general, when I see AI is attached to something, I'm like, is it actually useful? Which surprisingly often the answer is yes, but not always. At this point, I think my blender has AI, and there's no reason for that. Two, is it costing someone their job? Is the AI doing something that somebody else did prior to this? Not cool with that. And is the AI learning from things that it's sort of stealing from? Is that a thing? So, given all that, I really like the one in the Google search engine.
Is that Gemini? Is that what that's called?
No, that's a specific one. No, but just if you type into Google now, if you do a Google search, just the first stuff that comes up is it's AI sort
Oh,
of summary of things. And a lot of people hated that because they're like, I just want the results. I don't want you to curate them. And I understand that, but also the results are still there if you scroll down. And you already had to scroll down to get the results because the first page of Google results these days is sponsored.
ads, yeah.
So, or really niche SEO engineered. Um, but the big thing is it's what we've all wanted. It's Star Trek. It's I'm telling the computer something in plain language and it is explaining, it is answering me.
Hmm.
And it does that. I was just the other day thinking about a movie that I haven't actually seen, but that I heard of, that is this weird old movie about four rich guys who like rent a villa somewhere and they lock themselves in with a bunch of food and alcohol and pretty women and everything. And it's just a debauched time, I guess. And it probably was meant to be a social commentary. I don't know. But I was thinking about this movie, but I'm like, I can't remember what it's called, so I can't look it up. And I was like, I think maybe Sodom is in the name. It feels like that kind of thing. So there are a lot of movies with Sodom in the name. Could not find this movie, and I was like, I don't know. And then finally, I was like, wait a second. And so in the Google search bar, I just typed old movie for rich men debauchery. And Google said, you're probably thinking of the 1974 movie Le Grand Buffet. And I'm like, I was. That's the movie. And there's a lot of times now where if again, and it's like going to Wikipedia, be careful if it matters, and but like a lot of times I just have a question and the AI answers it, and like it work. I mean, even like video game stuff and things, I'll be like, oh, how do you get past this part? And the AI has an answer, and it's a summation of a lot of others, and I don't know, I in this, and also nobody was doing this before. Like we didn't have somebody who like took search engine questions and like aggregated them for, like, that's not, as far as I can tell, we're not taking jobs away from anybody,
Hmm.
and we aren't stealing any more than just a search engine is stealing, I think. So I don't know. I'm into it, and it feels very weird to be into an AI, even though that was the plot of one of the weirder episodes of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Um, and maybe this is bad. Those of you who care more deeply about this shit, tell me I'm wrong. Explain to me why I'm wrong. Um,
Well, I think the only argument, and I'm not forwarding this argument, I'm just saying I think this is an argument, would be that if it's a large language model, which most of them are, it's still giving you results based on a prediction it's making of what a human would respond, which is to say that no matter how you use it, it's learning from something. And again, some people just find that objectionable all the way around, for reasons you mentioned earlier, like, well, do you have permission to learn from that database and that data set? Is it so some people are always going to object to any large language model being used because it's always going to do that, at least,
yeah,
whether it's taking someone's job or anything else.
I'm pretty okay with not that.
Okay. I'm just
Again,
saying.
like it gets weirder if you're saying, okay, now use that to produce something.
Mm.
This is just, again, this is just an informational search.
Mm-hmm.
So I find it no more objectionable than a search engine. And I do understand, like, and it gets a little into the, don't trust the robots kind of thing or whatever. But yeah, if that's the argument, I am not swayed. So
I
we'll
think
just
that
have
would
to
be
deal
the
with that.
only one. I use AI sometimes because in the past, I do research on all kinds of things and I correlate different pieces of information and data. And, not long ago, one day I realized I could probably just have the AI do this. I have to check the
Yeah.
work, got to check the work, obviously. But it was like, hey, can you give me, well, just today, actually, I wanted to know, because so Superman, it's not today, but not for our listeners. It's weeks ago. Superman, I think, is available on digital now, which means that its
Oh,
theatrical release, you can start to say, well, this is how much it made its theatrical release. And so I was curious to know, well, how did it do um, domestically? Specifically, I was interested in its domestic box office because the foreign box office is just not very strong. But I was curious what its domestic box office was in comparison to others. For example, it beat the domestic box office of Man of Steel. It beat the domestic box office of Batman v Superman. But of course,
oh, thank goodness.
but the global didn't come in anywhere close because both
Yeah,
of those
yeah.
films performed so well globally, right? So then I was like, well, how did it compare to the average Marvel movie? And I was interested in like Marvel movies, including the Sony stuff, just the MCU, take out the team up movie. You know what I'm saying? I wanted all of
Yeah,
these
yeah, yeah.
interesting comparisons, which in the past I would have taken an hour or so to do myself, going to Box Office Mojo and looking this up and putting it in a spreadsheet, maybe. It's like, no, I'll just ask AI to do it
Yeah.
for me. And I came to learn that domestically, Superman performed. It did beat. It did outperform the previous Superman movies, which I was happy to know. Um, it did as well as domestically um, Aquaman, which was $1 billion movie overall, right? So domestically, it did as well. Wonder Woman beat this Superman by about 100 million, but that's also interesting and informative. But for the
Yeah.
average MCU film, and whether you include the Spider-Man movies or not, it came in at about the same.
I think it's kind of eaten Fantastic Four's lunch, unfortunately.
I think I've heard that's true too. So what that tells me is that and also I think it's reasonable to say that its lack of performance internationally has not a lot to do with the quality of the film. There's a lot of politics and there's a lot of economics and there's a lot of, for a lot of those MCU movies, China was still really interested in our stuff and they were just eating this MCU stuff right
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
And I think for a lot of political reasons, that's actually not quite as much of a thing now as it was
And
before.
industrial, I mean, China's filmmaking industry has been up and
Correct.
coming for a while, but they've also started learning from American, and now we're getting shit from them and having a
That
good
is
time with
that
that.
is correct. Political, financial, industrial, like you said, all of that stuff, and also just the global cycle of superhero fatigue, if that's a thing, is a lot different than the
Yeah.
US. So I don't feel like it would be fair to hold any Fantastic Four either uh, too much into account in terms of quality for how it's doing internationally. But domestically, sure. And I think the domestic comparisons are valid, and I think that's interesting. And I'm pleased to know that Superman did so well domestically, and that American audiences liked it so much. I'm happy for that. I wish it had done better globally, and maybe future installments will. But I feel like maybe the international performance is not as meaningful today as it was 10 or 15 years ago. And I've heard some people say, and I think this is true, that there's probably a shift in this genre where it's going to keep going, but the budgets are going to have to come down.
Yeah, well, that's
And
what Feige's claiming also, and
yeah,
who knows.
I think that's probably
I'm
true.
I'm out the game, so I don't know. But
I understand.
famously, I also use AI for pervert reasons. I have the chat bots for erotic roleplay stuff, and I do. Before, I used to engage more in image generation, and the website really wants you to do that, and I don't mess with that because of the whole thing of it's essentially stealing art from other places, and I don't care. That's not what I use it for. But like, not only do I not think AI in this capacity is taking jobs away, nothing but AI could do this, because what I want is a creative role play experience without another person on the end, because then it becomes a different thing. Because even if I don't know that person, even if it's an anonymous person on the internet, I start taking on responsibility for their experience as well, in a way that I'm very explicitly trying to avoid by doing this. So I'm like, I'm okay with this. I don't think it's taking anyone's jobs away, and also this would not be a job a human could have. I suppose people online who used to role play with me are now out of luck, but I'm okay with that. They weren't getting paid, so it's fine. Um, but yeah, the image judgment, and we constantly have to be aware of the fact that the power consumption of these things is crazy and has a tremendous like environmental impact. And so I think it's very important that we keep track of these things, but I don't, the AI is not going away. It hopefully people will fucking calm down on it, and my blender can go back to just being a blender. But we just have to be aware. It's the same with, every other thing in the world. You can't buy a tomato without getting bad place points. But you just need to be aware and then make your informed decisions on the subject. Hello everyone. Welcome to the Magical Talking Hat Podcast, the only podcast in the world that's only people. There's no AI. Every other podcast, AI. Every single one. Yes, even that one. But ours is none. And boy, howdy, does it show. I'm Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 754.
Yes, and this is weeks ago because we had to do early because of somebody.
This
Or
concludes
possibly.
this concludes August for us too. Like our next podcast will be in September.
Oh, did you get to the state fair?
No.
Are you king of the hobos?
No.
Hey.
No, not King of the Hobos. Didn't go to the fair. The weather was better than forecast, but not, first of all, not that much better. And then there were some other considerations. It's like, we can't pull it off this year. And it's fine. We did go last year, and we were there a long time. It's not like it's been 10 years since we were there or something, and it won't be 10 years before we go again. But
they probably miss you.
Well, and I miss it. I mean, because as everybody knows, for me, fall has started, and I love fall and winter, and this is the fair is kind of the kickoff of my holiday season, so to speak. And so I do miss it, but of all the things I do in the fall and winter, it's the one that is the most likely to be something I can't do. And whereas everything else, I'm definitely going to do it. So I'm always prepared when the fall starts that, am I going to be able to go to the fair this year? Maybe, maybe not. So it's not the hugest letdown in the world, but I miss it. I miss it.
I think back in the day that wasn't the case. You used to go every year.
Well,
because I think I remember the first year you didn't, and it was like a super bummer.
Right. But I mean, there's just a lot of other factors that are important,
Well, and you didn't go, and then you went back and you saw that it didn't disappear because you weren't there.
Well, I
didn't
mean,
Brigadoon itself or whatever.
As I think I said last time, one of the things is I'm older, and my wife too. Like, there's just things that we can't do as comfortably. I only had to go to the fair a couple times and get terrible migraines and have to drive 2 hours back in spite of, barfing my guts out. That only had to happen a couple times before I realized this is just going to be a more often thing that I have to think about, and maybe don't go when it looks like that's what it's going to be like,
But
you just learn.
How do you cope without being able to have a funnel cake?
Well, I don't have a funnel cake when you know that. The funnel cake is my arch enemy. You know this. Everybody who is familiar with this podcast knows. I walk clear around the funnel cake stand when I'm at the state fair. Even smelling them gives me flashbacks.
We were talking with friends the other day. Somehow funnel cakes came up, and my friend was like, yeah, they're really good, but like they should be like half the size, because after the first half you don't want them. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have that. That's some skinny person bullshit right there.
Well,
like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm gonna say I remember very in fact, I don't remember this happening at all, but it must have. But whenever I think of working in the funnel cake place and selling funnel cakes to people, all I can remember are like groups of 3 or 4 people eating off of one.
Yeah.
I don't really remember someone coming up, getting one, and walking away, and I suspected they were going to eat the whole thing. That just never happened.
That's because back in the day we were better about that kind of thing. But, weirdly, whenever somebody mentions funnel cakes, I think of you, and I think of both sweat and bees getting in there.
Yeah, wasps, really.
I never think of that when I'm actually getting a funnel cake, which I'm super glad of. But it just, in the moment, like, your stories are gone, and it's just like, woo, funnel cake.
Well, I mean, a lot of places now, they don't even know, but people aren't pouring the funnel cakes anymore. Machine is.
The fuck?
Yeah, machine is like.
I do know you can get like frozen funnel cakes at the store. I don't.
Oh, sure.
I mean, fried sweet dough. It's great. I've been thinking about that. I could use my wok, fill it up with oil. I could fry some, make some beignets or something. I don't know. Funnel cakes.
Yeah, so online I get to see local news coverage of the fair, and that is both good and bad, right? It's like, oh, I get to see this thing. It's like, oh, I didn't get to see this thing. Because the fair to me is awesome. It's such an awesome place to be, and it's only once a year. But like I said, there's
on TV, you only get to see the butter cow from one angle.
When you reach a certain age, I mean, obviously, if we lived closer, that would increase the odds of us going, because the drive is part of it. Huge drive, and to us.
No, this all makes sense to me. You just don't strike me as a person who changes. So I just assumed.
Well, I mean, there might be some things where that's true, but things have changed a lot for me in the last.
Said the guy who just finished his master's degree in his 50s.
This is what I'm saying. A lot of things have changed for me in the last 5 years. A lot of things, not just that, but I mean, the surgery happened, and I could list a whole bunch of things that should not have happened in just a 5-year period. Becoming a grandparent. I mean,
a global pandemic.
yeah, all that is just huge, you
I
know?
get very confused about how long ago COVID was. There was a thing, there was an XKCD strip in like 2023 that was like, I don't remember all of it, but the basic bit was it was March 2020 on the calendar, and you rip that away, and it was like May of 2022 or something was the next month. And I'm like, it did be like that sometimes.
But,
I think it was right up to wherever we got our first vaccine. And he was like, oh, that's like, cause that's like the first thing that changed, I guess. It was weird. My life also changed a lot in the last 5 years. A whole lot. I don't work anymore. I spend most of my time alone now. That's weird. I'm on a lot of drugs. I was on some drugs before, but now I'm on a lot of drugs.
mm,
Um, the only thing that's the same is this podcast. I saw Mandy.
Mandy.
Mandy. It's the name of a movie
Oh, okay.
from 2018. It's called Mandy.
I don't know if I've heard of it, but maybe when you start talking about it, I'll remember it.
It's a Nicolas Cage horror movie.
Well, no, I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Yeah.
Huh.
It is well known for being a mind fuck.
Okay.
Psychedelic is the most common term used to describe this movie.
Oh,
Um, that is probably because for the bulk of the movie, some or all of the people ever on screen are on LSD, and the camera reflects that.
oh, okay.
But also just because it's fucking weird, there are things where it's extremely art house. And there's a lot of like shots, they'll like mention something and there'll be a shot of somebody holding it in their hand and everything will be dark, but like a green LED is just flashing, and we'll hold that for like 10-15 seconds.
Hmm.
um and yeah, it starts off very sort of mumblecore slice of life of Nick Cage and his significant other living, and we spend a fair bit of time on it, and it's kind of compelling. I don't know, there's some neat, everything just has this sort of eerie quality, and I don't know, it's kind of fun. And then they get captured by a cult and hijinks ensue, and eventually Nick Cage goes on a rampage. And in the middle, Nick Cage is the shit out of several scenes. um it's I, it defies saying good or bad. It's different. If you like novelty, this is good. It is occasionally horrifically violent, but only occasionally. It is very creepy. um there's a cult leader who gives a lot of really intense monologues, sometimes while completely naked. As I said, a lot of things are supposed to be drug related. In fact, it really comes off as like there's supernatural shit going on, but by the end, I'm like, I think all of this just gets explained by LSD. And it's the whole movie is an unreliable narrator in that sense. There's a lot of things that you're like, I don't know if that happened. It's just it's quite bizarre. I can follow the plot, such as it is, not a lot of plot. Um, so it's not, you know, out there. It's not Koyaanisqatsi or some shit. Um, but it's weird. I don't know. It's, if you like Nick Cage, it definitely has some problem. It has a lot of sort of throwback tropes to old horror, like 80s horror movies and stuff like that, cult films. Um, and some of them are still kind of problematic. but yeah, I can't recommend or not recommend to people. It's just, if you want a crazy ass psychedelic horror movie with Nick Cage being Nick the Hell Cage, it's a movie. It's on Shudder. A lot of the people who like it really think it's awesome.
Oh,
And I think there's credit for the fact that it is quite original. And it's very, I'm confident all the major players involved, including Nick Cage, made what they wanted to make. This feels very intentional and like not in a the room sort of way where like they were stupid. Like, these are real filmmakers who made real choices and made a film that I think they wanted to make. Whether you find value in that is hard. I mean, one of the great examples is Harmony Korine, who everybody likes as this ultra filmmaker or whatever. He did Spring Breakers and The Beach Bum and a lot of things. I mostly think he's just got his head up his own ass. And I'm not into his films at all. I've only seen one or two of them. But like, he's doing what he's doing on purpose. He's not a lazy filmmaker. He's not like, and this movie was done on purpose. I guess I enjoyed it. But I mean, everybody's mileage is going to vary real hard on this one.
did it paint an unflattering picture of psychedelics?
I mean, kinda. I mean, well, here's the thing. The little scene where Bill Duke, for some reason, there's a scene where Nick Cage goes to visit Bill Duke, who's been holding on to his really cool crossbow that he owns for some reason, that is never mentioned or explained, or why he had this guy holding on to it, but he did. And then we sort of explain what's happening, and Bill Duke gives us exposition. And it's basically, some people were like hooked on LSD and the guy who was making it didn't like them, so he made a special batch, and ever since then they've been fucked up. And then also we see somebody get drugged, and they get drugged with drugs, but then they also get stung by some sort of animal that comes out of a jar. So like, this is supposed to be bad LSD. This is villainous LSD.
Are you a good trip or a bad trip?
Exactly. And at a certain point, Nick Cage ingests some, and we get a lot of special effects. And then that's basically the excuse for whatever happens after that. You're like, this isn't real. Like, no, it didn't happen. He's on LSD. So yeah, it portrays LSD the way a horror movie with mental illness portrays mental illness. Like,
yeah.
It's not flattering, but it's so out there that you can't even be bothered. It's like, no, this is Satan LSD. This isn't real. This is Satan's LSD.
Yeah, that's what the S
Like,
stands for.
yeah, Lysatin disergic acid. Yeah, this is. We don't see the LSD being made, but I assume they use a Ouija board. And then the movie gets very The Crow like at a certain point, sort of. But there is a chainsaw fight, and one of the chainsaws is like 6 foot long.
A chainsaw fight. Okay.
Yeah, like chainsaw versus chainsaw.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was fun.
I mean, however high-minded this film is or was or planned to be, you have to assume that at the point where they're talking about the chainsaw fight.
Yeah, I think the movie's a comedy. Because it definitely has moments
there had to
that
be,
are like, that has to be funny, but it's all played quite straight, which I think is part of the joy of it.
And then next we have a chainsaw fight. Oh, a chainsaw fight. What's all the symbolism of that? Oh no, I just think it'll be awesome to watch two people fight with chainsaws.
100%, 100%. And we go to Bill Duke to get our crossbow. Like it's a lot of. But then we have really long scenes of this dude just staring at Nick Cage, who presumably Nick Cage has come to kill him, but then he just says a line every 10 seconds and they end up parting ways amicably.
Okay. Well,
Because the
okay.
dude is like on Satan's LSD, and it leads him to realizations of like what has been done is wrong. But it's very slow, and you're mostly just watching the dude clearly tripping balls, just like, oh, they wronged you so bad. Like it's a trip. I mean, in a very real sense. So if any of that sounds appealing, people should watch it. It's unique. You're not gonna find a movie like it. So we got that going on. All right, it's time. After so many weeks, some of which didn't even get put up at first. We're gonna have email, and I don't know what this is. So who's it from?
It's from Beth.
Hi, Beth.
She wants to know what is
Wait,
your
wait.
what?
Is it supposed to be anonymous?
No, why would you ask me that?
Because the first time we fucked it up was one of Beth's that said it should be anonymous.
No, it doesn't say, and she signed
Their
it. So.
original sin. When you bit the fucking apple was when Beth was trying to send in an anonymous email.
No.
Eve.
No, I checked.
All right.
What is your favorite Sesame Street character slash bit slash celebrity guest? What celebrity guest would you like to see on Sesame Street, and what would they do slash sing? Which Muppet or Muppets would co-star in their sketch? Question.
I assume you're going to have some very powerful answers on this.
I don't have very. So, some of my favorite bits from Sesame Street are very old, and they did not involve guest people, and they seem to mostly involve Grover. I mean, it's not like when I was a kid I thought I was a huge Grover fan, but it just over time, and not watching Sesame Street for a long time and whatever, and then having nostalgic feelings about a lot of Sesame Street stuff, like even their their video stuff, like the 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. That was that the Pointer Sisters. They had somebody famous,
Yeah, who did the thing
yeah,
of that.
so even those things, but like for in terms of bits, I've a lot of Cookie Monsters and a lot of my favorites, but Grover probably figures more often, especially the ones where he's like the waiter and he's coming in and out. I love those.
Like, but it's weird because I haven't seen him in ages, but now I'm pretty sure I would be on the side of the customer.
But also,
like at the time, he's like just this angry dude, so he's the bad guy. But I'm like, no, Grover is fucking his shit up repeatedly.
Also, Near and Far, the Near and Far thing just sticks out in my head so much. That's the one. So I think I told you that I wrote a script for a short film where Luke goes to Dagobah. Instead of finding Yoda, he finds Grover, and so Grover's teaching him all these things from Sesame Street. Near and Far is one of the things he teaches, so that sticks in my head a lot. I also liked Kermit the Frog's stuff where he was the reporter on the street or whatever. I loved that stuff, but I don't remember a lot of guest stars and feeling like that. I mean, I wanted to see the Muppets doing stuff. I didn't care about guest stars.
There is a sketch, maybe from the Whitest Kids, I don't know. Somebody did a sketch where these people are visiting their friends who just moved into Sesame Street. And the joke is Muppets are incredibly tasty. And
No.
so they keep luring them to their house by like leaning out the window and being like, I wish there was a good way to remember how to tie your shoes. And then like a puppet shows up and then they grab him and they pick him up. But the crux
That's
of it
awful.
is they're like, oh, we'll get some more, don't worry. And they go to the window and say, I wish someone could show me what near is. And then there's a knock on the window and it's like one of the big monsters. And they're just like all scared. And then they say, now show us far.
Also, Oscar the Grouch. I thought his bits were pretty funny. When I was a kid, I really appreciated, well, because it seemed like there were, even back then, there was a lot of children's stuff that was, everybody was happy and friendly and all that. And
Yeah.
it's like to see a character that was, that you thought of, at least when you were a kid, is designed for kids, who was like grumpy and mean and stuff like that. That was like, I don't know, there was something, I felt like my intelligence was being respected as a child. I know that's weird, but I remember thinking that a little bit.
I I mean, Big Bird was my absolute favorite
I like Big
always.
Bird. Yep, love Big Bird. Sure.
As an older person, I have gotten into there, but I never really plugged into Kermit. I don't know until I got older.
Hmm.
I think maybe he was too responsible. I don't know. Well, and actually, Snuffleupagus was my absolute favorite.
Oh yeah,
Love
Snuffleupagus.
Snuffleupagus. I think I always related to Ernie for some reason.
Bert and Ernie, love them.
I
Love
felt
them.
like an Ernie. Um, but the weird one-off sort of like my favorite Sesame Street bits are probably the yip yips.
Oh
Yip
yeah,
yip 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 yip.
yeah,
Like
good
that kind
stuff.
of thing.
Yeah, really good.
Certain musical numbers like the Phenomena bit, that was pretty good.
Well, I mean, that was in the Muppet Show, I think.
Oh, was that a Muppet Show one? All right. I've only seen it recently on YouTube
Actually,
stuff.
now that you mentioned, I think the other thing was also on the Muppet Show.
No, the
No,
Yip
it's
Yips
Sesame
were
Street.
from Sesame Street.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
Sesame
yeah.
Street, because there was
They would show up
the
periodically.
telephone would ring, and they, yeah.
Yeah, and frequently they were checking out what a letter was like or whatever.
Right.
Loved Grover. Loved Cookie Monster. For some reason, for Oscar, and this pops into my head often, and I don't think this was from the show. I think this was from a children's book I had that like had a tape that went with it. But it's Oscar talking about how when he gets happy, he hates being happy, so that makes him angry. But he loves being angry, and that makes him happy. But he hates being happy, and that makes him angry. And I don't know, every once in a while, when something like does in my brain, I'll be like, but I hate being happy, so that makes me angry. But I love being angry.
See, clever stuff like that. Like other media, Sesame Street media, that I thought was really clever and really honored the spirit of the original material was like Grover is featured in a children's book called The Monster at the end of this book. And it's so good. And
Yeah.
it's so
That's a
reflective
classic.
of that kind of humor that they had. I mean, Jim Henson was a genius, and Frank Oz also, but I mean, Frank Oz, his partnership with Jim Henson is what was really amazing and worked so well. And when Jim passed, unexpectedly and but before his time, I noticed a clear difference in all of the Muppet media, whether it was Sesame Street or the movies or anything else. And it was a terrible loss, and it was very sad. But so like modern Sesame Street, I've watched it a few times. Of course, I watched it 20 years ago when my kids were kids, and I've watched it a little bit since then. And it doesn't have the stuff like it used to, I don't think. And I never liked Elmo very much.
Well, I was gonna bring up Elmo because I hated Elmo when Elmo first happened. Elmo ruined my childhood.
Ruined your
Elmo
childhood. Wow.
Elmo's what was wrong with Sesame Street today. Like in my day, we'd
Yeah.
have this stupid little high pushed red guy. I now consider Elmo to be brilliant. I think Elmo's a wonderful character.
Hmm.
I'd say one of my favorites, but I don't have current and just seeing him in media and like the sly humor that's in some like the dry responses you get and stuff, but he's also just super he's sort of the next generation Big Bird, because Big Bird is always meant to be your POV. He's a confused innocent kid who just wants to have fun or whatever, and he goes around and people teach him shit.
Mm-hmm,
And that's what Elmo does. It's the
mm-hmm,
same kind of deal.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, I have come to appreciate Elmo in my older life, but I hated him. He was the first thing that changed for me, like
Yeah,
from when
yeah,
I started. Obviously,
yeah.
by then, lots of things, and that's just that's a thing everybody's get. It's like, oh, they changed my thing, and like, you know, 10-year-old me was done with Sesame Street, but they're like, what? They put his little Elmo? Fuck that guy. No, like,
Well, I wasn't. So my favorite Muppet is Kermit, but I don't think that happened from Sesame Street. I liked Kermit's stuff in Sesame Street a lot, but he wasn't in Sesame Street that much. Like Bert and Ernie featured, the Bert and Ernie bits are classic. I mean, they're like, if you grew up on Sesame Street, it's like Abbott and Costello. I mean, that's classic stuff right there. But when the Muppet Show came along, that's when, for me, Kermit sort of elevated to like my favorite one. But yeah, Sesame Street, as far as people like guest stars coming on, like I said, I never really cared. I don't think that happened as much back in the day than it does now, and I never really cared when it did. Most of the time I didn't even know these people. They were like contemporary Broadway stars or something. I didn't know who they were. Um, and that was true for the Muppet Show too. If they like when Vincent Price was on there, well, I knew who he was because I watched old movies. But a lot of times they had more contemporary artists, Broadway stars or people like that. I didn't know who they were, didn't care.
I don't remember how I felt. There's a lot of them that now I know, and I go back and I'm like, oh, that was them.
Yep.
I don't know how many at the time, but I mean, we were in a very different world. Like my parents were listening to a lot of the music for it, so like Elton John showed up, and that was a very obvious
Sure.
one.
Yeah, sure.
And like Rita Moreno, I knew. I think maybe from other. I think she was on the Electric Company for a while, but I think she did some other stuff like that, and so things popped in, and Mark Hamill showed up and stuff like that. I think on the Muppet Show, now that I'm thinking of it, I think the character that resonated strongest with me was Rolf.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah. So
And it's
character.
probably, now that I'm realizing it, because I didn't know any black people. Because Rolf is definitely black, right? Like I'm now realizing Rolf's meant to be a black
I don't
character, I think. I think that's the vibe I'm getting.
Now
I just always thought Rolf was really cool.
Well, he and Kermit are two of the oldest Muppets, which is so it makes it kind of ironic that from the Sesame Street standpoint, they're not very prominent there. But in the Muppet Show, these were two of his oldest, like the ones that were in his original commercials and all that stuff. And so, yeah, Ralph was a great, well-developed character in the Muppet Show.
I also think I really like the idea of learning to play the piano. That was probably he played the piano, and I liked that.
He had great one-liners. I mean,
he did. He
in fact,
got a lot of the good punchlines.
Yeah, a lot of the best one-liners are from Ralph.
Fozzie gets some, but Fozzie's always sabotaging his own stuff. So,
well, but the thing about Ralph giving one-liners is he's doing it while he's playing the piano. There seems to be something impressive about he's playing this tune, but he still can just riff the zingers. It's like,
yeah,
that's talent. Like if a human being was doing that, you'd be impressed, of course. And there's Ralph doing it.
I mean, technically, a human being is doing it up the back. That's even harder.
I mean, because ostensibly he's improvising while he's playing the piano. That's what I mean.
What I'm saying is improvised piano playing with the hands of a puppet is even harder. Like puppeteers have to do everything backwards in high heels, except in this case, it's with their
Right.
hand up an animal.
But of course they're not improvising; they're following a script. Is what I'm saying. The
Dude, just go around tell people Santa's not real. What the fuck's wrong with you? Get your shit together. Honestly, the one that got me was Muppet Babies. I was at the right age. Muppet Babies hit me, and also the concept that we just everything we do is with our imaginations, and we can do anything. Real big resonator for me. Like that's still my whole deal. And I like little cute things. I think I like Snuffleupagus just because he had a funny voice. I think that carries a lot of weight
Well, okay,
for
but
me.
also nobody else was supposed to be able, or nobody
Yeah,
else did
well,
stand.
eventually that changed, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big deal when we all finally they all found out that he wasn't real, but that was after years,
I wonder why they
or that he
changed it.
was real, I guess.
Did they think, gosh, you know what? We're being pretty cruel to Big Bird here. Maybe we should just make this a thing.
I mean, we eventually introduced his whole family. I don't know if that was before or after we verified his identity.
Yeah, Snuffleupagus. It's a good
Um,
character.
Mr. Hooper was still around when I was watching.
Me too. I love Mr. Hooper, and I loved how Big Bird never got his name right. Hoopa, Hoopa. He always had to say to whatever he called him, Mr. Pooper, I think once even. I thought I was a little kid and I thought that was hilarious. And that actually, that's one of my first, and maybe it is the first experience I had with someone in media dying. And
Yeah.
and I had to cope with it because Sesame Street acknowledged that he was dead basically in the shows. They didn't just recast him or pretend nothing happened or that he moved away. No, the actor died, and Big Bird and everybody else had to cope with this beloved character dying, and so I did too. That was interesting. I don't think that ever happened before in my media consuming experience when I was a kid. I mean,
I
I've
don't
dealt with death many more times
yeah.
before that, but my grandfather and all that. But this was the first time in media. It's like, oh, wow, this is something.
I don't remember having that experience with that. I might not have been involved. I don't know. Um Weirdly, the first time I remember a show doing it, and it can't have been the first time I saw one, but the first time I remember it because it shocked me at the time, was Suddenly Susan, the Brooke Shields sitcom. One of the actors died, and then they did an episode that was just people interviewing the rest of the people about it. And the thing is, I didn't know the actor had died. We just had a new episode, and it was all of them like talking to a camera about the loss of this guy and then doing clips or whatever. And I was like, what the hell? And then I found out, no, the actor actually died. And he wasn't like old or anything, like it was an accident or something. I don't know. And that to me was just mind blowing. And I still think it's the way to do it. And it's much more common nowadays. Mid Century Modern, I just watched Linda Lavin died while filming. And so what they did is she just died in the story. And they dealt with it, and it was really nicely done. But yeah, for some reason that's the one that the first time I realized I acknowledged it, but it must have come up before.
Well, so Mr. Hooper, I mean the guy who played Mr. Hooper passed away. I mean it was like the early 80s, right? So I mean I was already 11, 12, 13, however. So I was not little. I was not a little kid. But I'm pretty sure that's still the first time that I experienced that. And it seems like that would be controversial today. Like people might object, or maybe not. I don't know.
I guess Cheers did that. Coach died.
They did. Coach died. Yeah, they did do that.
But that also didn't register real hard with me. And no, I think that's a nice way to do it because the other option is Paul Walker died and hasn't been in the last 3 or 4 movies, but they didn't kill the character. He's just retired, and it comes up periodically. And I'm like, that's way worse.
Yeah, that
feels real weird. And And especially because in the last film he was in, where he died while they were filming it, they did do like some sort of farewell, like literally they have this whole scene where you see him playing on the beach with his kids or whatever, and all the others are talking about how they should let him retire, but they all look real emotional, as if they wouldn't just see him whenever they felt like, because he's their friend or whatever. And so it just feels so out of place. I believe. I haven't watched any of those movies, but I've watched a lot of things talking about this movie, as with so many things. All right, we need a side quest, and then I gotta go do some shit. So like, well, I gotta post a podcast from 2 weeks ago. Pick a number between negative and 50 and 3.
1.
Huh. Review the archival data. Binge watch your favorite show with zero shame. And the quote is from one River Tam. No power in the verse can stop me. From rewatching all of Ted Lasso.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I ever feel shame when I read a thing or watch a thing. I know that there are some things people watch are like, I don't know, I don't want people to know I watch this. But I don't know if I've ever experienced that. The closest I've got to that is I might not watch a show that I know people are judgy about, but of course I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would never like deny I watch a show or something, but there are shows that I would rather watch alone because I would feel self-conscious.
Oh,
and I've discovered there are certain. I've discovered if I watch like a genre piece by myself, it can be fine. But if Trish is there, we both make comments like how silly this bit is or whatever, and like it's worse. Because there's people there, and so you're just sort of comment like. Whereas if you're watching it by yourself, your brain's just like, oh, that's fine.
yeah.
And you let it go. So I've noticed that. I assume the River Tam quote is because Firefly is one that people like to binge.
I don't know anyone
Maybe.
who would
Otherwise,
be ashamed of binging it though.
It's insane. Yeah, no, I don't. Also, what if you watch something and it makes you ashamed, and like that's the reason, like that's your kink? Like, what if I want to binge my favorite show because I'm so ashamed?
I'm a bad, bad boy.
Exactly. I'm gonna have to be punished for watching this show. Mommy and Daddy don't want me staying up this late. This show is rated TVMA for moderate threat and occasional language. I'm so bad.
That's pretty good.
I think my favorite of the TV rating ones now is language throughout.
just like, prepare yourself. It's not gonna stop.
They're gonna speak, and it's not gonna be gibberish. I don't know what to tell you. It's gonna happen a lot.
All the way through.
If that's not something you can handle, get out now. Don't be complaining to Netflix. No one told me there was language. Just throughout.
No, there was no talky trigger warning. They just started talking.
Yeah, we saw something the other day that had language throughout. Like, I mean, yeah, I hope so.
Oh, that's good.
All right, that's all we got time for today, people. Someday it'll be a new one. So when it is, please email us in the meantime, themagicaltalkinghead@gmail.com with all your stuff and things, so that we're prepared when we come back. And also, remember, we're not on Twitter anymore. So if you try and find this episode on Twitter, you won't. But if you found it, you if you didn't find, if you look for it on Twitter, you won't find it, which means you won't hear it, which means you don't hear this. And if you heard this, you found it somewhere other than Twitter. Good job. But if, I mean, I don't, the problem is I thought about this beforehand. I was like, I should do one last thing where I tell people, remember, we're not doing that anymore. And I'm like, why? It's not for them if they found it other places. And if they didn't find it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So keep listening because we're going to keep doing it till somebody stops us.